everybody, my name is Anastacia. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a how to study abroad video. As you can tell, I'm not British. I'm from Canada and I'm currently in Leeds, and I just finished my LLB at the University of Leeds. So I kind of just wanted to talk about my experience figuring out how to study abroad, the process, and then getting here. I obviously want to say, like, this is just my experience. This is what I did. I'm sure there's many ways to like figure out where you want to go and how you want to do that, but this is just what I did. Some resources that I had that maybe would be helpful to someone deciding if they want to study abroad. I also just want to say that this is not an exhaustive list by any means. Please do your own research and kind of figure out if this is the right thing for you. I also want to say that I moved to Leeds in September of 2020. My process is probably different as I was doing it in COVID, which I will get to, but this is going to be that video. I have my laptop full of handy dandy notes. Yeah, let's get into it. To start off, I thought I would talk about my background. So in Calgary, I studied at Mount Royal University. I have a Bachelor of Communications Information Design degree. I graduated in 2018, I think. So I already have a degree. In Canada, if you want to go to law school, you have to have a degree anyways, whereas here you can kind of go into it right out of like high school. So I had a Bachelor of Communications degree. I worked for a little bit. I worked at a magazine, did graphic design for a bit, communication, and then I decided that I wanted to pursue law school. This is something that had been in the back of my head since high school, really, but I went a different path in university, which I'm really grateful that I did. I think having some kind of non-legal background was really beneficial to me. I think my communications degree was definitely the right move. I really enjoyed it. I loved my degree. I loved the friends that I made in my degree, and I did really well in it. So I think that that's really great when it comes to applying for law school. I will also say, I don't know if all schools in the UK have this, but if you do already have a degree, which I did, you can do a fast-tracked version of the law program, which is 2 years instead of 3. When it came to like researching universities, I had kind of done just like a general Googling, honestly. I looked at the Russell Group schools. Like, in my opinion, I don't think it matters. Law school is law school. It's an amazing accomplishment. I don't necessarily think a Russell Group school should matter, but it is a field where that kind of thing does matter. So through my research, I came across this website called Canada Law from Abroad. And it does exactly that. It's just a resource for Canadian students looking to study in the UK. So I have reached out to them. I think they have like an inquiry thing on their website, and someone got back to me very quickly, I remember. It's a free service, and they basically just help walk you through the entire process, which, like, hands down was so helpful, and I am so glad that I found that resource. I'm just reading off my laptop if I'm looking down, that's why I don't want to get any of it wrong, but they basically help you with every step of the application process. This is not like, also I just want to say this isn't sponsored. This is just genuinely how I did it. I wish it was sponsored. That would have been cool. But so they review all of your academic credentials. So this was like really strange to me, but when I was applying to law school, they literally like really didn't care that I had an undergraduate degree. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, they were more concerned about my high school grades, which I thought was really weird and also like slightly concerning because I didn't do that well in high school. So I had to request my like high school transcript, which was so strange. And looking back at that, I was like, oh my god, I'm definitely not gonna get it. And you also need a recommendation letter. So I went for a professor from my undergraduate degree, but you could do like an employer or anything like that. Just someone to kind of talk about why you're great. You know, that's what you want. When you're applying to law schools, you apply through this thing called a UCAS. So I think you get 5 schools that you can apply to. Canada Law from Abroad sent a list of schools that I'm assuming they're like affiliated with, or they kind of like push. Some of those were Russell Group schools, and so you can read through their admission requirements and kind of see what you're interested in. I like took a look at that entire list that they had sent, and I remember looking at the environment, like the city itself, whether it was big, small, what the vibe was, because I knew that this was going to be the first time of me living abroad. So I ended up applying to the University of Leeds, the University of York, the University of Kent, University of Southampton, and City University of London, and I got into all 5. So that was great. Only one that ended up having an interview was York. just because the way that their law school functions is a little bit different in terms of the teaching style. When I was debating between schools, I was really debating between Leeds and York, and the reason I ended up picking Leeds was purely just based on the size of the city and the reputation of the school. When you're applying, you basically need to write a personal statement, a resume, and your reference, and then like transcripts and stuff like that. I just like sent all of that information to Canada Law from Abroad, and the girl that I was working with was so helpful, so lovely, and she just dealt with everything. So again, like I said, it's a free service. I didn't pay for anything aside from the application fee for UCAS, which I believe was £25, but you would do that regardless. Even if you were doing it on your own, you still need to pay to apply to use the UCAS service, which is where you pick your 5 schools and send in your applications. That is that, and then basically you just wait until you receive offers, and then you pick, and then you got to figure out like how the heck you're gonna go. Once I had kind of decided that I was going to go to the University of Leeds, this was around December 2019. I had accepted my place at the University of Leeds, and then was kind of talking to the girl from Canada Law from Abroad to figure out what the visa process was like. So basically I was kind of just like a sitting duck for a little bit, because again, I was going to be applying for student loans from Canada to then take and convert into pounds and pay for my degree in the UK. That process is so broken, that whole process. The fact that you can't apply for student loans until like the summer before is absolutely insane. So really, genuinely, I was a sitting duck for months. There's no really way about it unless you have like other means of funding, which I didn't. So that is like stressful in itself. I'm not somebody who can just like wait around for an answer. I like to know what's happening. So that was really hard for me to kind of just wait around until applications opened, and then you have to wait again to see what amount you are allotted for your student loan, which is crazy. And also when you're applying for student loans in Canada, you obviously need to convert the amount into Canadian dollars, and that is so many dollars. It's absolutely insane. So when you apply, you're applying with the converted number. So the Canada Law from Abroad resource is great because they kind of walk you through visa application process and what that looks like, and they are able to offer you tips on actually moving to the UK and if you need resources for when you're there. I applied for accommodation through the university. I picked the one that looked the nicest and was like central, and then that one got filled immediately, and I got shoved into like a grimy, weird other one, which was not great. That is where I lived my first year. I feel very lucky that I lived with a great group of girls that made it tolerable, but it was not the vibe. I would not live there again. So basically when you apply for student loans, like this is just specific to me. Again, I applied for Alberta student loan. I initially got the amount that they deemed I was eligible for, and I appealed because I wanted the full amount. I don't think I ended up getting the full amount, but I appealed once, maybe twice. I don't really remember, it was so long ago, but I did have to appeal, and then they did up the number by quite a bit. So I would take that into consideration. If you're applying for student loans and you can appeal, do that, just because there's no harm in doing it. You might end up getting more. So I did that both years for school. I appealed and then ended up getting more money, so that was great. And then the visa process. So I have a tier 4 student visa. Again, I will say, like, do your own research on student visas. I am by no means an expert at all. So I think the earliest that you can apply is 6 months, like before the program starts. Again, with COVID, all of the visa offices were closed. It was very last minute. I also was under the impression that classes would resume in person in September. We weren't really given a lot of like concrete and clear guidance by the university. Obviously, they didn't really know what was going on either, but I was under the impression that I needed to be there by the time that school had started, and that was including a 2-week period of quarantine. That ended up meaning that I paid to fast track my visa, which in hindsight I really didn't need to do because I was not learning in person. So I looked up these numbers because I didn't really remember how much things cost in terms of the visa process. So I think it's £363 to apply for a visa, which ends up being like 600 bucks Canadian. You also have to pay a surcharge for the NHS. which I did not know about. And it is expensive. It's very expensive. You can't opt out of it. It's £470 per year. So my 2-year student visa cost me £940, which is about 1,500 Canadian. And that was an expense that I did not really realize was there. So when I went to pay for my visa and it was so expensive, I was like, oh God. So that's something to keep in mind, that the visa process is very expensive and you have to pay the NHS surcharge. So when you're applying for your visa, you need like certain documents. So you need to prove that you can support yourself during your time of study, which depends on the country. It says online that if you're studying in London, you need £1,334 per month, and outside of London, you need £1,023 per month. So you need to like show that you have that in your bank account, which like, I don't know about you, but I definitely did not have that. So I had to just like figure that out. And then you also need your CAS, which is your confirmation of acceptance for studies, which has like a reference number that you need for your visa application. They take ages to send out those numbers. I waited maybe like 2 months for them to send out that number, and it was like, I don't know, like just like a number that I needed for the application. And I don't think I got it until August. Basically your visa appointment, so there's only like a certain number of visa offices that do this biometric appointment thing that you need to do in Canada. Edmonton was the closest one to me, but that's worth checking. If you're not from like Vancouver, Calgary, or Toronto, like you might have to actually travel to a different province to do that. I don't know where the offices are, but that's worth looking into. So basically you go to this visa appointment, biometric appointment, so they take your fingerprints, which they need for your visa application, and then they also take your photo, which is the photo that ends up on your resident card. And I'm pretty sure it was 190 Canadian and then like a $94 user fee, which like I don't even know what that means, but yeah. So that is what you pay at the appointment, and then you send off your documents, and basically you just wait and wait and wait and wait. So again, at that point I had fast tracked it, so I paid to fast track it. So I ended up getting my visa, I think within like 2 weeks. This is also the appointment, I just want to say, where you send off your passport with all of this stuff. So your passport list for however long it takes for them to do this. But they send it, they do some sort of thing, they deem whether it's eligible or not, and then they put a sticker in your passport, and then that's what you get. So when you end up traveling to the UK, that is the thing that they look at. There's a bunch of documents that you need when you get into the UK that they check at like border control. Just like they need your acceptance letter from the school, they might need other things. That's something that you need to look into. I don't really remember. And then they check your sticker in your passport. And then once you're here, you end up waiting a little bit, and then you pick up your residence permit in the UK. So I picked mine up from the university, and that has like all of my information on it, and is basically just like what lets me stay in the UK. So for example, when I traveled to like Paris or Madrid while I was here and I came back, that permit card I have to show when I come back into the country to prove that I can stay here, because obviously I have a Canadian passport. Don't lose that card. Very important. And then I'll just say this, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it because it doesn't really apply to me specifically, but most of the people that I met in the 2-year graduate LLB program were here for university to do their law degree, and then they're going back to Canada to practice. I'm not planning on doing that. I'm planning on staying here. To go back to Canada, you have to do transfer exams. So those are through the NCA, and basically that's how they like accredit your UK law degree, and that like means that you can practice in Canada. Again, I don't really know a lot of information on the NCA, so that's something that you should probably look into if that's what you're wanting to do once you're done your law degree. But you basically do a certain number of exams. If you graduate from your law degree here and you go back to Canada and you do a master's, I think it reduces the number of exams that you have to write by like 2 or 3, but I'm really not too sure. Again, this is because when you're here, you're learning about the UK law, obviously, and I mean, Canada is a Commonwealth country, but you still need to learn about Canadian law. So that is kind of how they transfer your knowledge and figure out, it's like I think it's a pass or fail kind of thing. It's not like percent or anything, it's just pass or fail. That is something that you need to consider. You have to pay for those exams. It's expensive to say the least, but it is something to think about and kind of map out what you want at the end of your law degree, whether you want to stay in the UK and practice. If you do, there's like different paths you can take. LPC, training contracts, all of that kind of thing, qualifying that, or the NCA, the bar, like all of that kind of thing, which again, I really don't know a lot about because that's not really what I'm planning on doing. Yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to cover in this video. I think that's like a pretty good baseline of all of the things that I remember having to do to come from Canada to the UK. Obviously, again, like I've said, do your research, make sure that you're picking the school that's right for you, make sure that you're looking at all of the charges that you're gonna come across, because there are so many. And if there's anybody who has any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm more than happy to help. If anybody has any questions about living in the UK in general, I'm more than happy to answer those as well. I'm gonna put the Canada Law from Abroad resource in the down bar. Definitely consider that if that's something that you're interested in. Yeah, see you next time. Bye.